What is going on, everyone? Today is Tuesday. It is July 12th, 2022. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup. Oh, that is very, very warm. Good morning, Mark. Who else is here? There's a bunch of people here. You got to comment in the chat so I know who you are. I see all these numbers. Some of you are just kind of lurking. There's a term from way back. So remember the internet forum term lurker? To participate, to be part of, usually like an old bulletin board or something like that, and consume the content but not comment. That would be a lurker. Good morning, Gad. Good morning, Andrew. Or I should say good morning to Andrew. I don't know if the spelling error is intentional or not, but I like it. Here we are. It's raining. I wasn't expecting it to be raining, but that's okay. I'm looking at my freshly cut grass. Landscaper was here yesterday. It went well. I've only found one thing that they almost made a disaster out of. What are you gonna do? The alternative is I either spend like an entire day mowing my lawn, or I buy another mower. And I don't feel like doing either of those things. So there's just orange stakes all over my yard. Good morning, Frank. So how was your Monday? Let's start there. How was your Monday? I am exhausted. I went to bed at a reasonable hour. I had some pretty rough dreams. Woke up going, what is going on? So I am not well rested. Andrew and I are recording later, so that'll be interesting. 3 days in a row and not sleeping well. I don't know. I might have to take a nap. Can I take it? I don't know. I'm the kind of tired I might not be able to take a nap. Good morning, Jenny. Yes, I know, Frank. Thank you. I am behind on email. Good morning, Dennis. Andrew says, I'm also exhausted. Should make for some fun recording. Jenny says, I spent 7 showers making Chinese food for dinner yesterday. It was so yummy. 7? I don't think I've ever spent 7 hours cooking one meal. I was going to make nachos last night. Stopped off at the grocery store after my lesson, which, by the way, I crushed it. One of my better days of shooting. And I was like, should I go to the gym? No, I don't want to go to the gym because I don't want to get home at 8 o'clock and then make dinner. So I went to the grocery store. I got home at 8 o'clock and didn't make nachos. I cooked up some ground turkey and ate some of it and put the rest in the fridge and went to bed. That was it. That's all I did. She said she made everything from scratch, including the wonton wrappers for her wonton soup. Oh, man. That is all out. I don't think I've ever known anyone to make their own wonton wrappers. That's cool. I'm impressed. What was the occasion? Was there an occasion to this? Oh, coffee came out good. What else happened yesterday? Well, did you check out the episode with Dr. Jerry Beasley? Martial Arts Radio. Dr. Jerry Beasley. Really cool guy. If you haven't, you should, because history. What else? I got work done. It was not a day that I can say much about. It just kind of, it was a day. I worked, went to the range. Here's something I can say. So I've talked before that, you know, not only in shooting, but everything, the mindset that I bring to everything comes from martial arts because I started training when I was so young. There's really, I don't remember, I have a very small number of memories that occurred before training. I started training when I was 4. So anything I do, I'm looking for how to refer that back to martial arts because I'm competent and comfortable in martial arts. And so I can use my understanding of martial arts to do other things. Shooting translates really well. I was having a conversation with the instructor and he was saying, you know, I might have you do this and this. And he was kind of preemptively defending it. And I said, no, look, you don't have to do that. Just because it might not be applicable in a real world situation. Here we had a bunkai conversation. Just because it wouldn't be applicable in a real world situation doesn't mean I don't see the value in it. And if you think about that, a lot of times when we train basics, when we're running back and forth on the floor, we're doing kihon if you're in a karate school, you know, just running standard techniques and just making combinations out of them. How often do we really break them down and say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this technique second. I'm not going to teach this technique second because there's no way that this would flow like this. Being able to go from any technique to any other technique is about skill and proprioception and is incredibly valuable. And so we had a nice conversation about that. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Nathan. And Jenny says, no occasion. I just wanted Chinese food. I can't order Chinese. Oh, that's right. Because all of my food intolerances, so I only have it when I make it. I don't do this often because it takes 7-ish hours. I get it. Bummer. Well, Brian slept through his alarm. I have 3 alarms. I have the light, I have the birds, and I have my alarm clock. My alarm clock also has a light. Start to wake up and pterodactyls outside my window. It's a good time. My bird deterrent mechanism arrives today. We will see how that goes. Hopefully it is gentle enough to be used on a bird. So today, Andrew and I are recording. I've got a meeting in the morning. I've got a meeting in the afternoon. What else do I have? I think that's it. I think I'm going to let today be an easy day. I'm going to try to go to the gym. Maybe take a nap. I don't know. We'll find out. Good morning, Mike. And Frank chimes in. I had edamame last night at dinner. I ate the kind with the shell still on. Oh, that's the best kind. They say having that pile of shells or skins after you're done eating is a good visual cue of how much you have eaten for weight loss purposes. I can see that. Can you imagine being served a bowl of edamame where it was just the beans, just the soybeans, and you're just digging your hand in? I don't. It's funny if you serve someone pea pods, you know, like with words. I'm still waking up. Where the peas are large enough that you have to shell them, that you're eating them, especially if it's not like a edible pod. You know, something that's a little more fibrous. No problem. People shell them, eat them. Edamame, same thing. But if you were to put a plate of cooked beans on the table, even if it was an appropriate temperature, no one would ever dig their hand in. They're like, no, I got to put those on my plate with a spoon. What is it? What is our aversion to using our hands? It's really silly if you think about it. I can understand not eating, you know, spaghetti with your hands. That's difficult. So here's the question. Did eating utensils originate for to make things easier, or did it happen for etiquette purposes? I'm guessing it was to make things easier. Like cutting with a knife is easier. Stabbing things with a fork is easier. But is drinking soup with a spoon easier than tipping a bowl to your face? Does anybody actually know the answer to this? That would be interesting. Brian says, my wake process needs improvement. Starts at 5:40 and I should be up no later than 6:10 after snooze rounds. Was 6:19 today. The snooze bar is a disaster. I would encourage all of you to get rid of that. There's no need. If you need to be up at 6:10, sleep until 6:10. That is my advice. Why would you voluntarily give yourself 30 minutes of poor rest? That's what that does. Just get up. You got to get up at 6:10, sleep until 6:10. Get up. Do your thing. Or maybe get up at 6:05. Or even better, get up at 5:40 and do something you enjoy for 30 minutes. Back when I was starting the computer company and I was really, really, really busy and I was working insane hours, I was getting up at like 5:30 to start work at 8 and I was watching a movie because it was the only time I had during the day to myself. I was coming home. We were closing up at 8 o'clock. I was getting home and getting to bed at like 10 o'clock. Taking that opportunity to build something into your life that you really enjoy is valuable. Mike says, I made some jamming fig pork chops with roasted Brussels sprouts and roasted sweet potatoes. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. Jenny says, our aversion to using our hands is watching other people pick their noses and use the restroom without washing their hands. We had to keep those people from touching shared food. My guess, not a fact. But I think this goes back before restaurants. And if you're cooking, you're generally cooking your own food, right? Like most of the meals we eat, we're cooking our own food. Forget about the aristocracy for well, actually admit that might be where it comes from. Silverware might have been something rich people used. And we wanted to be rich, but we couldn't afford silver, so we started using stainless steel. If you look at the way food's consumed in meals that would involve chopsticks, it's all about function. It's not about etiquette. I don't know. Frank's got a riddle, a joke for us. Did you hear about the new fork they just came out with? No. Jenny says, snoozing after your alarm actually messes up your cortisol levels, makes you feel worse. You will feel better if you just peel yourself out of bed when the alarm goes off. I believe it. Frank answers, people are really divided over it. Ha 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 ha. Gad says, in Taiwan, soup usually is a clear broth and served with your meal in a smaller bowl. You lift it to your mouth. In Mandarin Chinese, you drink soup, not eat soup. Well, that makes sense. I get it. Form follows function. And I think that's an attitude that we can bring to martial arts. Form following function. Sometimes you have form dictating function. And that doesn't always work out. I think getting to the heart of why we do things, being willing to take a step back and ask yourself, is this efficient? Is this effective? Whether we're talking about silverware at the table, or we're talking about forms, or we're talking about your self-defense curriculum, anything, the ability to take a step back and look at it critically. Critically doesn't mean negatively, but to be critical, to evaluate it in an effective way, in a honest way. Does this make sense? Is this going to work? I think that's an important skill. And sadly, almost anything, anywhere we look today, critical thought is gone. I used to say, I probably started saying this 10 or 15 years ago, and this was based on my observation. And I'm going to try to say this without being too specific because I don't want to offend anyone. I looked at the world's religions and I observed that it was much more common in some faiths than others for people to not truly understand what the faith said or the history of the faith or have read the texts of that faith, but to have opinions and simply point back to their faith and say, well, this is wrong because my faith said so. Or we do this. Why? Because the faith said so. An appeal to an authority without even an effort to understand where that action or decision policy comes from. And I find that to be really dangerous. The mere memorization and quoting of faith, I had the same issue with it when I was in school. The idea that education is memorizing things and regurgitating them is ridiculous to me. It does not help anyone understand things. There's value in being able to memorize things, but there's absolutely no value in one's understanding of a subject being entirely, keyword, entirely based on the memorization of facts like dates and names. It doesn't help you. It doesn't do a darn thing. And I see the same thing in a lot of places, including martial arts. That's not martial arts. Why not? Because it's not. I was just tagged in a reply on a post on Facebook because this is not martial arts and it's dangerous to say it is, or something to that effect. And so I replied, how is this this is dangerous to martial artists. How is this dangerous to martial artists? It's not. And this person, like everybody else who's going to make some kind of claim, the claim is going to fall back to a violation of their personal opinion of what is and is not martial arts. This is the only position anybody can argue from. I believe martial arts is this, and since this is not that, what is happening feels threatening and it needs to stop. Whatever. That's arrogance. I have no time for it. Stacy says, I must have hit the snooze bar 6 times this morning. She has 3 alarms because it's camp week. Ooh. Brian is working on changing his wake habits. The thing that made the biggest difference for me, I am a recovering snooze bar person. The thing that made the biggest difference for me was getting an alarm clock that starts with a light. So instead of going from sleep to annoying noise, I gently wake up with some light. And at the very least, when that alarm goes off, I'm much more awake and it is much easier to tolerate. I hate the alarm noise. And if I'm deep in sleep when that happens, oof, that doesn't go well. I don't like that at all. Mike says, during the Stone Age of mankind, eating utensils consisted from simple sharp stones intended for cutting meat and fruit. Simple designs of spoons were made from hollowed out pieces of wood or seashells that were connected to wooden sticks. Animal horns also were used as a means to eat liquid foods. Yeah, doing what you had to do. Probably because Having bowls was really difficult. What were they making bowls out of in the Stone Age? They were either using sandstone or maybe they were carving wood. I don't know. Um, but if it's Stone Age, that predates iron, that predates ceramic, that predates any of the simple uh, metallurgical techniques. So yeah, you had to have something, and horns make sense. You can stop up a horn and put stuff in that. Mike actually wrote about this when he was at Iowa State. Oh, that's cool. Jenny says, I went to Catholic school for 13 years. It was designed around memorize and regurgitate. I think that was most of our public school education. That was mine for sure. Very little discussion on things. If any, college taught me how to delve into topics and discuss multiple viewpoints. I feel like the 13 years before college were wasted, and my achievements meant little because I didn't truly understand what I was learning. I am lucky that I had a few very, very good teachers that went against the grain, and I was able to understand some things. But I think it's part of why now I love discussion so much, because that's how I learn. And I don't know if everybody learns most effectively in that way, but I've got a few friends that we can sit down and we can dig into a topic and we can pull out our phones. Oh, but what about, and pull out the relevant information, because we don't have everything memorized, because we don't have to. Because here's the secret they don't tell you in school. If you really love history and you read a lot about history and you discuss history and you watch history on TV and in movies, the relevant names and dates are going to stick in your brain. You don't have to sit there during a documentary on whatever subject you're passionate about and have a cheat sheet of all the names, because if they're relevant to you, you'll remember them. And maybe if your memory is really, really bad and you don't, you will choose to have a sheet of notes while you watch it. It's perfectly fine. And we get into this in the martial arts a little bit. And there are some schools and there are some approaches to training that involve memorization. And some schools take that memorization and they find ways to make it real. There are other schools that have people memorize things simply for having them memorize things. I don't find value in that. I'm not going to say you can't or shouldn't do it. But if it's important enough to memorize, it's important enough to build enough of a practice around it that it is of value. I caught something on social media yesterday, and I can kind of strong arm it into this conversation. The idea that it was and no, too much. I'd have to give you too much context. It is our job as martial artists who have trained to educate the new generation of martial artists, right? Like most of us have trained a while. Some of us are instructors. We teach what we know to other people. The things that we pass on should be of value. They should be passed on in ways that highlight their value. And if there is something that someone can do all of their training and not need, it is of less value. If we are going to have someone learn something that is of less value, we have a greater responsibility to help them understand why. And I do not believe because I had to do it is a good reason. Anybody else have that as an argument as a kid? My parents made me do it, so you have to do it. But you hated it. Why would you make me do it? It's a terrible argument. I had Actually, I don't even know that I have much of that, if any. A little bit. This is funny. Frank says there really is some truth to the quote: "If you want to get laid, go to college. If you want an education, go to the library." But there too, discussion and exploration and being able to take what you've read in a book and have it contextualized for you as it relates to other things. You can't read, well, not effectively, multiple books simultaneously. But if you're in a class with an effective instructor who is teaching a subject, which could be history or it could be martial arts, and you're working on a thing, you're reading a book or you're exploring a concept, you're drilling a technique or a form, the instructor, if they're a good instructor, can help you understand where that information or technique or form fits into the landscape of what you're learning. It gives it context. Context matters. The context of what we do, how we do, why we do is so incredibly relevant. And it is something that I think we struggle with because going back 5 to 10 minutes, so many people involved in education, whether it's martial arts education, religious education, academic education, are simply repeating what they were taught. They do not fully understand what they are doing, what they are teaching, what they know. And I'm using air quotes. They are just as deeply ingrained in the memorize and regurgitate method of academia. And it's a shame. See you soon, Andrew. Gad says that discussion, it seems that this mostly happens in the Western world. People claiming that they know what it means to, quote, be a martial artist, mostly about Asian martial arts. Never seen this type of behavior during my years living in Asia or even now. I'm not surprised. People just do their own thing and let others do theirs. Why get bothered by something that has no impact on what you practice? I think because on some level we have been conditioned via social media that our opinion is of more value than it is. Most people's opinions are of no value to other people. All opinions are equally weighted, as in they are the opinion of a single person. Some may be more qualified based on experience, but they're still opinions. And let's be honest. Let's be really honest for a moment. How many people do you care about their opinions on what you do? Very few, right? I don't care what most people think about what I do. I love all of you. If I don't think there's one of you who, if you said, Jeremy, I don't like the way you train, I would care. I'd be sad. Well, so I guess I would care. I'd be sad, but it's not going to have an influence. It's an opinion, whatever. Mike says memorization stores in the short-term memory while actual learning goes to a long-term memory. So often, no matter what you learn, you memorize it first, but then if you regurgitate it and touch it enough times and review about it more, then it will get learned. See, and I get that and I agree. But my point is, I don't believe that's the most effective way to long-term commit the most important things. And in a public school education, to say, these are the things that these children need. I used to hire. I interviewed hundreds of people over the course of my IT career. The vast majority came in with no tangible adulthood skills. That's a problem. I do not care if you know the date of the Emancipation Proclamation. I care that you know how to write a resume. And if we actually cared about our society and our people, we would be setting them up for success in life. I once heard the quote, "We don't raise children, we raise adults." We're not raising white belts. We're raising hopeful future instructors, and we should conduct ourselves accordingly. All right. I'm going to go. We are after 7 o'clock. I want to thank you all for coming by. Some good discussion here. I appreciate that. Once I started to wake up a little bit, it got even better. I love that so many of you chimed in today. That is my favorite part. I can't read every comment. And I love the fact that I can't read every comment. And what makes me even happier is when you all are talking to each other and I get to observe it. Just because I can't put all the comments up doesn't mean I don't love to see it. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And remember, if you want to support us, we've got the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. Did I update? Nope. That update is likely coming today. The family page, whistlekick.com/family. That update is likely coming today. And of course, we've got the store, whistlekick.com, and the code FIRSTCUP15 to save 15%. I will see you back here tomorrow. And I'm going to try and come up with something to post in the Facebook group, facebook.com/firstcupwithjeremy. And so maybe you'll chime in on that and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. See ya. Peace.